Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I have given a name to my pain. The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Hey now, welcome to episode number 3 of the BOF Batman on Film Social Hour. This is going to be an audio-only podcast version of this show. The first 2 are video, so you have not checked those out, please do so. You can find them on YouTube, BOF proper, and they're audio-only as well, wherever you find your podcast. So, we're going to get right to it. So, join me is Garret Grev of BOF, Senior BOF Contributor. Garret, how are you?
I'm doing well, Bill. Excited. We've had a lot of news, a lot of new news, a lot of breaking news, a lot of historic stuff go down this week. So
weather-wise, it's cold in Minnesota and it's cold in Texas, but not as cold in Minnesota. That's all you're going to get this time. That's all you're getting for weather.
We don't have any snow on the ground.
No snow on the ground, really.
It's cold.
Okay.
It's cold, but there's no snow. So, we're as of this recording, we're like 13 days out from Christmas, and my little guys are like,
"Wow,
when's the snow coming, Dad?" It's
when is it coming?
29 degrees.
Any on the forecast?
Yeah, we got a little in the forecast, but we've had these dips where it'll get colder, a little bit of snow, and then it'll get above freezing. Everything disappears, and as of now, we don't have any new snow on the forecast through next Monday. So not in a couple days, a week, 9 days out.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's getting pretty down to the wire here from Minnesota. We don't have brown Christmases in Minnesota.
I don't think because I've been up there quite a bit for Christmas, and it's always been snow every time I've been up there.
Always.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, here we go. So we know that Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be released in theaters on Christmas Day and also on HBO Max the same day. And come to find out, Garret, and this has been in the trades, so this is not just whispers and rumors, but apparently Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot they were given a payment that would reflect, I guess was the best way to put it, what they get money based on the film's performance and so forth. And we know it's not going to perform as well as it would have if it was theater only and if it wasn't under this, this COVID-19 pandemic. So, and I don't know how far that's going to trickle down the chain with all the other, like everybody who works on the film. And this is an important thing we're going to get to. This is the issue at hand is everybody who works on the film, front and behind. And so anyway, it's coming out and it's kind of like, okay, well, get this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I thought maybe, Garret, couldn't you have at least, let's put it in theaters for a week and then put it on HBO Max?
Yeah.
Or a month later, or, whatever. So
I think so. It feels like there were maybe some different venues to go down or operating models to pursue. But Bill, and I think this is the key point, right? And you're already here. I'm not sharing anything news with you. That's not splashy enough for HBO Max. And right now, AT&T is taking advantage, probably has the wrong connotations, I guess, but they're looking to utilize the tools they have at their disposal to really prop up and make HBO Max a shiny, gleaming thing that people are going to be attracted to. So, if you put this thing in the theater for a week, and then release it on HBO Max, you can't say, right? Like debuting same day as theater on HBO Max and get the press and get the eyeballs and get the level of interest. You sort of lose that wow factor, right? And the marketing department isn't going to want that. They're trying to get subscribers to this dang thing.
If you follow Batman on Film, you follow me on Twitter or on our Facebook group or on Facebook in general. I've been saying for a long time, this is AT&T is all about HBO Max. And this is something that's probably only been accelerated by the pandemic. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Something that they've probably been thinking about. But of course, the springboarding off of that or following suit is that in 2021, all of Warner Brothers theatrical releases are going to come in theater and on HBO Max on the same day. All of them. January through frickin' the end of December.
I was not expecting them to go this big, right? I thought there'd be more content. I thought, the window between theatrical and streaming would shrink down, particularly for when AT&T owns their streaming service, why not shrink down that window, right? And if you're a subscriber, you can get this on your streaming service only, before iTunes, before, it's certainly at your local Best Buy or whatever like that. But I never thought for the whole year they do same day, maybe for the first 3 months, right? We've got a vaccine on the way. Just got alerts about it last night. God willing, we're going to get a vaccine going around in this country. And to still go ahead and say, it's the whole dang slate, all 2021. That was a shocker for me. I was surprised. And
so as a result, I'm with you. I the whole year. I mean, I would even say, okay, I'll give you through May.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, get your blockbusters, out, your summer popcorn movies out there in the summer.
And then maybe, then go to, you release and then maybe a month later you drop it or whatever, and then it's kind of, then move away from that as the year progresses and as our world gets healthier or more immune or inoculated against this virus. So shocker. And the dudes, the directors who work for Warner Brothers and just the filmmakers in general in Hollywood have come unglued with this. And,
man.
And we'll talk about the different aspects of that in a second. But of course, Christopher Nolan is arguably Warner Brothers' biggest director.
And he might be the biggest director working in theatrical movies right now. Period. Yeah,
and the reason why he works with Warner Brothers is because they have been known for decades, since probably its inception, as being a filmmaker-friendly studio, where they are filmmaker-driven and they allow. I mean, Nolan. I mean, who's going to fund Interstellar?
It's so funny. I was
or
just
Inception,
having this conversation.
The
contributors to Batman on Film, we've got, there's a few of us that have a group text and we stay in basically constant contact with each other. And we were having this conversation and somebody said they just thought, Nolan could probably pack up and go to whatever studio he wants if he's dissatisfied with Warner Brothers. And my counterpoint was, but who is going to give him, what studio is set up to give him more creative control and bigger paychecks? Warner Brothers has handed consistently him massive budgets to make, what on the surface appear to be, outer space movies or action adventure movies, but are actually very complex, very sort of, twisty, turny, deep, nuanced Christopher Nolan movies.
Dunkirk.
Yeah. Dunkirk. Who's going to give it? It doesn't exist.
No.
And if they do, they're going to give them a check for a decent sized budget, maybe not as big as Warner Brothers, but a decent sized budget with a whole bunch of studio notes and suggestions about who can be cast and play these roles, because Warner Brothers operates in a way entirely different from, think about Sony Pictures, how they run Sony Pictures. He could never make a movie there. It'd drive him insane.
No, Disney either.
No, absolutely. Disney.
No.
I mean, Disney. In one, it would be a disservice to Christopher Nolan because they'd put him through the manufactured process. And I love the Marvel movies. I've said it a billion times. I love them. They're so much fun. And the quality and consistency is there, just like a higher end fast food franchise, right? Like it's kind of fast casual. It's going to be good food. You can trust it every time you go to one in a different city when you used to go out to eat in different cities. But like, there's not a lot of nuance there, right? They teach these somewhat fledgling directors how to become box office directors. And that's great. And they produce great content. And they've got a system that allows them to pick guys from TV and turn them into, billion-dollar movie franchise directors. That's cool. Christopher Nolan doesn't fit in a system like that at all.
No. And a lot of the directors, I mean, Ben Affleck, Clint Eastwood, some of the name Warner Brothers directors.
You're talking about grown-up directors making grown-up movies, right?
Yeah.
Like those Warner Brothers is about the only studio out there that makes an adult drama still.
Really. I mean, absolutely. So the crux of Nolan's argument is that you're not only, well, first of all, it's that these big movies meant for the big screen should be shown on the big screen. That's where they're meant to be seen. And they're also meant to be seen in the communal experience with an audience. That's how they're made. And that's one of the big differences between what goes to streaming and what goes to the big screen. And I get it. Okay. And I don't know, Garrett, if a lot of people read Nolan's quotes.
No, they didn't. They read headlines.
They read, because immediately it was, F him,
right?
This uppity, pretentious,
right?
Elitist millionaire who just wants to make more money because he wants his film on the big screen, and that's not what he's saying at all. He's also fighting for everyone down the food chain,
right?
Grips, everyone who works on a film. And I'm paraphrasing him. He said that when a movie gets sold, even though if it's been years since it came out in the theater, it gets sold for television, everyone who works on that gets a residual check that's relative to their position. You know what I mean?
That's been one of the funniest things, like knowing some of how that Hollywood stuff works. Can you imagine? Like, I just think it'd be so funny if I was like a grip on a movie or a best boy or something, right? And you don't know when a movie gets sold, but all of a sudden a paycheck comes in your mailbox. And you're like, well, this is a nice surprise. I just think that's such a funny thing. Yeah,
I mean, so and I pulled some of the quotes from Chris. He said there is this idea that that's been sort of put forward a lot, that the pandemic is sort of accelerating a trend that was already happening. But in 2019 was the biggest year ever for movies financially. That doesn't suit the narrative that the tech companies or the big corporations kind of want to put out there right now. And here's the bottom line. He said it, and I'm going to give you the other quote. He says this is to the Hollywood Reporter, but he also says to NPR when they say, "So are you accusing AT&T and Warner Brothers of, propping up HBO Max?" He says, "No, I'm not. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm looking at the statements they've already made themselves and saying that what they see here is an opportunity to promote HBO Max using the slate of movies for next year. And there's a danger with that needs to be addressed through appropriate negotiation with unions, with talent, and all the rest." That's the trickle down. That's the food chain. I mean, is some grip.
It's about
is going
doing
to be
things the right way.
Going to be able to stand up and and make his case for everyone that worked on that film.
And not to be pejorative, but the guy that ran to get the Stars coffee and worked on that set, right?
But Chris Nolan can. Christopher Nolan's voice. Yeah, absolutely. And it has nothing to do with the pandemic. And he even points out, he says, "I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't have a film coming out next year. They put Tenet They put Tenet out, you know, back when was it? August or whenever it came out, and it was kind of the test case, you know, and because of the pandemic, people didn't go. So, I mean, it's clear. Let's be clear here. They're seeing this as an opportunity to prop up HBO Max. It's that simple. As I said in the beginning, couldn't you, like, next year, couldn't you have, like, had a week difference, 2 weeks, a month? I mean, what, you know?
Yeah,
so,
you know, the thing for me, you read some of the stuff that, you know, people write online, and I get some of it, right? I get some of their sentiment where it feels a little tone deaf for these directors to be seemingly more concerned with their movies and telling stories the way they want to tell them versus public safety. I understand how somebody can feel that way, but feelings are very different than actual occurrences. And if you read, to the point earlier, if you read the statements, Nolan is not being cavalier. He is not telling people there's no virus. He's not telling people that it's a hoax, right? He's not saying, hey, this is all China's fault, so we just shouldn't release movies in China. Like, he's not taking any of the really stupid stances that people have taken during this pandemic. He's talking about the financial model and how contracts work. And if Warner Brothers or AT&T didn't do their due diligence to talk and make these things right with the cast and crews of these movies, and that I don't want to rant, but this, my next point is, we're talking about a specific set of movies where this is a concern. Mm-hmm. If Warner Brothers didn't do these things, then, or AT&T, then that's problematic. And there's going to be a ripple effect from the way down to people are compensated to the way that contracts are going to be looked at in the future.
Exactly.
That's fine. That's not emotional. That's addressing the business issues here. And from a filmmaker standpoint, Nolan seems to be speaking the way I took his statements, and I read them many times. And at first they sort of, I was like kind of one eyebrow raised, and then they became clearer and clearer to me. He's talking about a specific set of movies that were filmed and created from the sound mix to everything else intentionally for the big screen. So you, Warner Brothers, AT&T, went out, hired cast and crews to do a job. Mm-hmm. They made a specific product to be displayed a specific way, right? Like, that is a fair thing for then those folks to come back and say, like, hey man, we did this thing to go and be this other deal, not to be on your small screen streaming service. And there's financial impacts and contracts and everything else I just said that need to be concerned here. That makes total sense. You know, what I'm not hearing Nolan say is no one should ever create streaming content, that streaming is bad. I know he's a little bit more pointed on his opinions of streaming, but I didn't hear him in his comments say no one should ever make a film or a feature-length film for a streaming service. He just said these movies weren't intended for that. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty damn fair statement. Those are the facts. No one went in to make these movies with the intention of streaming them on HBO Max.
Absolutely. And speaking of those movies, one of those movies is Dune, you know, which got a lot of buzz. Right. That's definitely a film you meant for the big screen.
Oh, those early trailers were just really.
And the director, and I had to practice this, Denis Villeneuve, who is French Canadian, is the director of Dune, and he wrote an essay for Variety, and had some very strong opinions. Here's a quote from him: "With this decision, putting all 2021 films, theater and HBO Max same day. With this decision, AT&T was hijacked. I'm sorry. With this decision, AT&T has hijacked one of the most respectable and important studios in film history, Warner Brothers. There is absolutely no love for cinema nor for the audience here." That's. I mean, I can't argue against that, knowing that that's why they're doing it. It's just get it on HBO Max. Let's get it on HBO Max.
Yeah, and I'll say this. You hit me with the pronunciation one more time, Bill.
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve. So I've been saying in my head, and when I've been talking Villanueva, as if he is like South American.
Yeah.
He's not. To the north, not the south. Come on, Garrett, get your directions right. Villeneuve, his statements actually rub me a little bit more in the wrong direction than Nolan's. Now, it's not that his assessment of the situation is wrong. I think he's reading the tea leaves, right? It's pretty obvious.
Yes.
Like that's what AT&T did. But I did think in his, there was a little bit more of this sort of, people accuse Nolan as being pretentious. And when I go back and reread Nolan's statements, I didn't get a lot of, condescension or pretentiousness. I thought Denis were much more that, right? It's sort of like, I love movies. I love going to the movies. I think it's so much fun. I think it's a great way to spend time. It's a great way to sort of go have this shared experience. You get to talk about it later and everything else. Denis, I think, is a little bit too reverent in what that entertainment industry is. It's fun, it's entertaining, and there are important movies that are made that kind of stretch your mindset and teach you new things. But to talk about for 4,000 years this shared communal experience of watching something in the audience, and I don't know, man. At some point, you're also you're making awesome, very cool stuff, but let's not get too puffed up about it, right? Isn't
seeing a movie in a theater with an audience, isn't that just very much part of the American fabric, American way of life for over a century, And
I don't want to speak down to it because I love movies to the point that, I go to movies by myself, not now, but I did go to movies by myself on opening night if my wife, had to stay home with the kids or wasn't interested in whatever superhero thing I was going to see. I like seeing movies on the big screen with an audience, even if I don't know people in the audience. That shared experience enough that I go by myself. But sometimes it's like, come on, guys, rein it back in, because there are going to be people, kind of back to the I understand the feelings piece. There are going to be people that read that and say, oh, you're one of those evil millionaires that just wants money because you think your job is so important compared to our lives and our safety and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. And I'll say this about Denis' statements too. I never saw him once say, everybody should get their butts into theater right now because I want to show a movie and that's more important than staying
Neither
safe,
one said that. He actually said this: public safety comes first. Nobody argues with that, which is why it became apparent the winter would bring a second wave of the pandemic. I understood and supported the decision to delay Dune's opening by almost a year. The plan was that Dune would open in theaters in October 2021, when vaccinations will be advanced and hopefully the virus behind us. Science tells us that everything should be back to a new normal by next fall. So that's what we were saying earlier.
Right.
The first 3 months of 2021, maybe through May of 2021, and then start easing that up. But the whole slate to where it's going to be October of 2021, Dune's going to come out, and it's still going to be streaming the same day on HBO Max, Well,
and that was the point I wanted to talk about too, is, I think it feels as if, and I know there's going to be business implications, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I sort of always, you let the bean counters count the beans, because especially in Hollywood accounting, it gets pretty complex pretty quick. But, these movies are still going to be shown in theaters, correct? That's the plan. Now, I think that's a little bit what I was going to say around, where Denis' statements got a little overboard to me is, he's sort of decrying this move as the death of this, 4,000-year-old shared communal experience. That's, I don't know what he says. It's very important, right? And I agree, it's important to some extent. But that option's still there.
Yes.
Now, I think, so I get a little bit less touchy-feely, the death of this, vibrant, important art form, because I don't buy that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if you want to go see a movie in a theater, you'll go see a movie in the theater. Even if you got to spend a few bucks. Now that's not going to be true for everybody, right? I don't want to.
I know where you go. I'm going to get to that in a second. So I wanted to ask you.
But
yeah.
But like the financial sort of business implications, doing what's right based on the expectations set up when people went into a joint project, cast and crew and studio. I think doing what's right by that group, kind of more around what I felt like Nolan was speaking to, like that I'm on board with 100%.
Yeah.
Right? You got to find a way to make that right. And if AT&T didn't do that before they made this decision, then shame on them.
I think the difference between Nolan and Denis Villeneuve, I think. I don't want to say Villeneuve. You got that stuck in my head, and I'm in Texas, so you know.
Oh yeah, and I was pronouncing it like even more like the A, like the double L's in there, like Villeneuve, you know, like not a la.
The difference is, I think Dune's director is defending just the art form and doing it in the theater. That should not ever go away. And on the other hand, Nolan is defending that as well, but he's also defending, look, I'm at the top, but there's people all the way down that benefit. You know, it may be a residual check of $1.25, but it's $1.25. And
it's something,
you know, and it's like people who complain about how much pro athletes make. It's like the NFL. Okay. They get paid millions of dollars. I would play for free. No, you would not. Number one, you would not play for free. They are a part, NFL. The players are a partner in that business. They are the product in that business. The owners, the league is making billions of dollars from that product. You don't pay them $100,000 a year, and while these owners are cutting checks for, multi-million dollars a year. It doesn't. I've argued with people about that before.
Oh, me too. You know? And it doesn't make you popular on online social media, so I try to avoid it. But I'm an econ guy, right? Like, I went to school. One of my degrees is in econ, and I'm a big free market. I'm a big free market supporter. And I think, if market value says this is how valuable someone is relative to what the return that the payee gets based on their payment, then you have your classic X and Y line, and prices establish themselves. It's the invisible hand. The same thing goes for these directors and the talent, the actors. And the talent. Yes, absolutely. And the laziest criticism I've ever seen anybody have is to call somebody out as being a millionaire, because you don't do their job. You don't know what it's like to make something like this. Are they very highly compensated? Yeah, they sure are. But you know what? Careers in Hollywood can burn bright and burn out pretty dang quick. So if you've got a window where you can crank out 10 good movies, and get paid a bunch of money, think about how many directors aren't Spielberg, aren't Nolan, that maybe made 3 pictures under some studio and the last one didn't do well. And now they're, I don't want to say waiting tables or something, but, working a much lower position in the industry. Yeah. So I don't know. I never like to judge somebody else's pocketbook or bank account. That's their money.
I mean, Nolan, like we talked about Nolan being probably the top director in Hollywood.
Right.
I mean,
and those good directors have good crews that they take care of.
And it gets to a point of it's a Chris Nolan film, and you go see it because Christopher Nolan directed that film. Same thing with an actor. I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan in the world, but there's a reason why he gets paid what he gets paid, because a Tom Cruise film, he's a draw. The studio is not like the studio is going to make more money from a film with him in the lead, whether it's Mission Impossible or the Top Gun sequel, whatever, than it would be if they had cast someone who's a fantastic actor but working on Days of Our Lives, on a TV soap opera. So it's the same dynamic between that and athletics and pro sports to me, so I think the aspect of quit complaining about, it's about money. Yeah, but it's not about money. It's about money for a lot of other people too. It's not just the director. And that's what Nolan is obviously fighting for. So, it leads me to this with all of this. Couple things. What do you say to the guy or girl who says, I don't care, stream everything. I've got my 70-inch TV and my surround system. I don't even want to go to the theater anymore. The theaters suck, candy's too much. I'm like, well, don't eat the candy, just go watch, but anyway.
Right. It's interesting. It's because I am not that guy, but I think I'm a guy that's kind of settled between the theater purist, which is my preference, and what the reality of my day-to-day life is. My wife and I have 4 kids. It's really expensive to get a family of 6 to the movies. One's a baby, so we don't really go anyway, right?
Yeah.
We remodeled our basement and got a nice little viewing room there. So like it's kind of easy to stay at home. What I would say to the person who says that that's their choice and that's everything should be streamed is that's fine, man. Be patient then, because unless the industry changes, unless contracts change, unless financial models change, there needs to be a theatrical run that precedes most of these movies in a regular, normal setting. Now, if we get into pandemic, right? Like all rules are off. Let's figure it out and, try to make the best, most decent choice for everybody. But if there are films that are created for a theatrical experience and the compensation model behind the work that's already been done doesn't change, then those things need to go to the theater. And if people want to see something in a theater and are willing to pay for it, and the price model works out where it's beneficial for the studios to do that, then that's not going away and it shouldn't go away. That's a marketplace that should exist. Now, if you are saying, I like streaming, I don't want to go out, I prefer it, I think that's cool. The cost of entry for that is some patience in a number of cases. We're going to have to wait a little bit to see that thing at your house. But when you do, you got a 4K TV, it's going to be great. You'll be cool. Or you're going to watch content that was specifically created for streaming. And that doesn't mean it can't be cinematic in quality. It doesn't mean that, it won't look good, sound good. But the intentionality behind the cast, crew, and contracts is for that to go streaming. And that's where that belongs. It might not even be that it might have looked really nice on a big screen, right? It could fit in a theater just fine. But everything about that production was designed to go there. So like you can't have it both ways always, right? Like I don't see that being sustainable.
Yeah, that's with me. I mean, I think and even Nolan says, there's a place for both. He's not against streaming. I think the whole issue is with the same day stuff. And you're right. I mean, like right now, I'm having to debate legitimately. Am I going to go see Wonder Woman 84 at the theater, or because I have HBO Max, or because I am concerned about COVID. Not going to lie, and especially now with rising. But I can watch it on HBO Max, so I'm gonna have to make that determination. Maybe I wait a week and go at a 11 a.m. screening on a Wednesday when hopefully less people are there. I didn't know this. The time I went to see Tenet, I thought they did a great job. I was not ever around anybody. There was hand sanitizer everywhere. Everybody had a mask on. They had the theater itself was blocked off into pods, so you never were near anybody. So,
right.
Yeah,
I haven't been to the movies. I don't know if I will go. I have had to travel for work, right? So, I've been on a Delta airline flight where I was really impressed with what they've done. And from what I've heard, AMC and some of the bigger chains, and even some of the smaller chains that have really decided to take this seriously, have done an incredible job. So I applaud them for those efforts. And at some point, like, I don't want to make this like my thoughts on COVID hour or anything like that, but if people are taking reasonable precautions that make logical sense, the goal should be to keep yourself safe and keep yourself from spreading things to others. Those should be the goals. So if you can accomplish those goals, at some point, a level of pragmatism needs to come in.
Yeah.
And say, I've done everything that I can do to keep myself safe and keep myself from potentially spreading something to others. Is there more value in sort of taking the virtuous stance that I'll never leave my house? If when I leave my house, I'm distancing, sanitizing, masking, hand washing, doing all those things. I mean, I don't know, maybe if you want to look good and have a high horse to ride around on, but realistically, you're accomplishing the same thing, right? So,
Yeah.
Bill, like, I don't begrudge you for a second if you go to the movies. I
Yeah.
probably won't, right? I've got family members that have got some
Yeah.
immune compromised things, and we'd like to be able to see them. But like, I'm having that same internal debate. I'd sure as heck like to see Wonder Woman 1984 on the big screen for the first time, to the point where my wife's making fun of me because I'm like drawing up plans around like how I can do some drywall work to move my projectors further back to take up a bigger spot in the screen. You know, I've got like the surround sound. I've got a decently nice setup, but like, I want to see it as big as possible because what we've heard from Jenkins this whole time is that was her intention. And I would like to watch it the way she intended. So you're kind of putting a tough choice to be. You're going to figure out a way to do your best at home, or are you going to hold out? Really three, do your best to watch it at home, hold out longer and hope that it's still in the theaters when things, you know, really settle all the way down, or, you know, be smart, do what you're talking about. Go to the 11 a.m. showing.
So, just a couple of quick hits and takes, and we'll get out of here. Movies, theatrical releases, movies on the big screen. It survives, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I'm with you on that. Okay.
I think it likely changes, but it definitely survives. And I think that the type of movies that end up on the big screen start to filter even more than we've seen in the last few years. But absolutely, the theatrical experience survives.
Same day releases, theater, streaming service. That becomes the norm.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm with you on that too.
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think once we get through this year and God willing, everybody gets healthy and stays healthy and we prevent, you know, more death than ever needs to happen. Right. Mm-hmm. I think people are going to want to go out, and they're going to want to go out in a big way. They're going to want to go to dinner. They're going to want to go to a movie because they've been stuck in their damn houses for 18 months. Right.
Absolutely.
And that is the preferred way for a lot of people to have an experience. Just sit around on your butt for 2 years, and then you're going to suddenly just keep sitting on your butt. I don't think so. I think, you know, streaming is going to continue to grow, but it is the same day thing. I think there's going to be, after we get through 2021, too much desire to get into the cinema to make that a regular occurrence going forward.
When does, on a related note, when do Blu-ray 4K disc go the way of cassette tapes?
That's going to be an interesting one. And this is where I got to be careful because it kind of runs into my line of work a little bit.
That's why I ask you.
So the trick is emerging technology, I believe, and I'll just speak for myself. I'll just keep it safe. I believe emerging technology will keep home video, physical media alive for a decade to come at least.
Okay.
Now, we haven't seen DVDs even go all the way of the cassette tape yet, right? People still buy DVDs, not en masse like they used to, largely for their kids' playroom TVs. It's a 19-inch, 22-inch TV. You don't need super high definition, and they think it's just a cartoon anyway. So at some level, those will continue. They might trickle out. They will trickle out over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
It likely will not be consumer, or it won't be consumer based that leads to the death of that. It'll be retail based. You only have so much space to display things. You can only carry so many SKUs. So I think as, you know, Blu-ray sales and now really 4K sales and what's on the horizon as 8K takes off, retailers will say, we just can't carry all of these, and they'll stop offering DVD and sort of force consumers up into higher definition. And that's going to continue until we get really, really, really lightning fast Wi-Fi that can download and stream something like 8K. Because most of the time when you think you're streaming 4K, you're not really streaming 4K. You're getting a better picture than 1080p, but it's not true 4K for a lot of people based on their internet. So until we can solve the challenge of how you stream ultra next level high def streaming digital content, there's always going to be some sort of physical home media.
Last one, and this is Batman on film, right? Is the Batman going to be the first big blockbuster that will quote unquote save the independent, or not independent, save the movie business, save the theater business is what I'm getting at.
The superhero to save the industry.
I think I've said before, Batman's going to take care of this shit, right? You know, on
If the-
another show we did.
If the release date does not change, it absolutely will. And we haven't heard anything lately that would tell us it's going to change again, right? Especially from Warner Brothers, and especially event movies, right? Like there's not going to be big event movies that are going to bring the masses to the theater. And even when a Batman movie hasn't been, the cultural phenomenon that 89 or, The Dark Knight were, people still show up for a Batman movie on opening week. Even Begins, it wasn't like top of the world lighting the house on fire with its initial release, but it got butts in the theaters after, Batman and Robin made everybody never want to see a Batman movie ever again, right? So I think he is the he is not the hero we deserve. He's the hero we need to get this movie industry and cinematic experience back on track once everything's free and clear.
It looks like I can't fathom them doing the 2021 model to the Batman in March of 2022. And I think it'll be the first blockbuster, the first big film that will be released. From Warner Brothers, at least, it'll come out and will not be streamed on the same day. And hell, in just a couple of weeks, we'll be able to say that the Batman is coming next year.
I know,
Garrett.
Yeah, we can say it once again.
Wasn't it kind of lucky or kind of a blessing in disguise that the Batman did get moved to 2022 now that we know that all of these, like Dune and all these films are what they're going through? Totally.
And it's not that I won't watch. I mean, and I'll tell you, I'm legitimately going to move my projector and upgrade my projector. And because if Warner Brothers is going to give me theatrical release features that I can watch in my house, I'm going to watch them because I want to be safe, and who knows when things are going to clear up. And quite honestly, even without the pandemic, I got a whole bunch of kids. I'd prefer to see the movies in the theater, but it's easier for me to stay home. So if you're going to offer it to me, I guess I'm going to take it. But I would not want to experience the Batman this way. I want the pomp. I want the circumstance. I want that feel. And holy geez, are we going to be ready for it, right? Like, I know I will be. And that's not to fault anybody else that's going to go see a bunch of movies between now and then. I likely won't. I just likely won't. Yeah. And it's going to be awesome for one of my, if it's not my first time back in the cinema, to be the Batman. Like that'll be pretty special for me.
Could be for a lot of people. All right. That's good conversation. Lots of hot takes by people on all across the spectrum on this topic. So
I feel like this is one of our recordings where I'm never not. I have a tendency to get a bit chatty, but I typically don't share my more pinpointed opinions as freely. It's the Minnesotan in me, but this conversation really brings it out.
I thought we should bring a little sanity to this topic.
Just calm down. It's like none of these directors are trying to destroy the world here. They're trying to. And if I can think, I can think some of it is a little self-important, self-aggrandizing in the language, but they're really just trying to. This is their industry, and it's the people they work with that they care about, and they're trying to take care of their product and their people. And if you can take care of people, product, and preserve people's safety, then geez. Let's keep doing this in the cinema because that's a great way to do it. If you can't do those things, well, then heck. Yeah. We can still keep people employed, making great stories and entertain people at home. I don't want to see that become the norm. And that's kind of the nutshell of my thoughts.
Good. Anything? All right. Sounds great. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I don't have a ton going on right now with some of the different stuff in the publishing world in DC. Regular titles aren't kind of hitting the way they used to. I am going to check out Justice League and Batman, Superman were the titles that I review for the website. I'm going to kind of check out what the future state stuff is. And, if it works, and it seems, not even if it works, if it seems worthy of a review, whether it's super bad or super good, or just feels like interesting to talk about, I might write up a couple things for the site about it and send them your way. Otherwise, I'm going to be on pause from comic reviews for a bit, but I'm never on pause on Twitter. Hooked on that. So you can follow me over there. I'm at Garret Wato, GarretWato. And for anyone out there that likes fantasy football, it's a lot of fantasy football content, but I'm always talking Batman, hero of my heart, and Superman, Star Wars. You see some pictures of my kids if you really are interested too. So check me out over there.
Patty Jenkins is going to direct a Star Wars movie, huh?
I tell you what, I watched that video. We didn't even get into this, or we could do a whole nother show on some of the Disney stuff. But I watched that video and I texted the guys and I said, I don't know if I'm just like tired or what it is, but that video got me way more emotional than I would have thought it would have. And she talks about her dad, the fighter pilot that died in service of the country, how she always wanted to direct, right? And then when she pulls out the X-Wing helmet, I was like, whoa, just like back to being a kid. And she's so talented. It's really, I think, pretty spectacular. She's been such a skilled, talented filmmaker for years, but now that she's the spotlight's really shining on her, we're going to get a lot of good stuff out of that director. We'll do
a social hour for Wonder Woman 1984. We're gonna see it Christmas Day regardless, right?
Yeah, one way or the other.
So look for that after Christmas and a few days afterwards. All right, I got nothing really. I'm sorry that the Batman news has been very minimal, to say the least, of late. Which again, I think it's a good thing, because that means they're continuing filming and we'll be done here shortly. And by next year,
is good news.
Yeah, it'll pick up next year. It'll pick up going as we move into throughout 2021.
You had put something. People are hungry for news, man. They're rabid. You had put something up. I think it was just sort of like one of your general reminders, right? When people start getting all worked up about different Batman things or what movie things could happen or not happen or whatever else. Every once in a while, you just like to remind the Twitterverse, the Batman's coming. And I think we had recorded a social hour of whatever it was, the same day. And there wasn't any groundbreaking news, but people saw your tweet and thought, like, in the fact that we released something the same day, thought you were going to drop a bombshell. I'm like, when has Bill ever been like I got a scoop I'm going to lay on you guy? But just like, calm down, man. Enjoy the journey. Like, no news is good news. You don't have to be so eager for every
Absolutely. One thing I will mention, besides follow me on Twitter at Batman on Film, I am going to be giving away a hard copy edition of Batman Detective Comics number 1027. Did you read this one, Garrett? Did you ever read this?
I have not read that. Oh yeah. I didn't read the whole thing. It came out a week that I had sort of double duty comic reviews, and I read half of it. I for a second didn't I felt like a real dumb fan, because I'm like, why is this a big special release? We just had issue 1000, and I'm like, 1,000 issues since his first appearance.
Yeah. So besides that, stay with us. We'll be, as I said, the Batman will be cranking up. The Batman is coming. 2021 should be progressively kind of that slow build up. By the end of the year, with the March release of 2022, it should be getting full on marketing push. So 2021 should be fun in that regard when it comes to the Batman. All right, that's all I got for Garrett. I'm Bill. You're listening to the Batman on Film Social Hour, and Garrett, Batman on Film is
the authoritative, the original, the dead. Oh, you messed it up. The authoritative. Oh, wait. Now I'm in my head. The original, the authoritative. No. Bill. Authoritative.
Definitive.
The Dadgum
original. Batman on Film. All right, we'll catch you next time.
I got my order all mixed up.
I'll let you pass on that one. That's fine. See y'all next time.
You have been listening to the official podcast of the one and only Batman on Film website. On Twitter, follow BOF at Batman on Film and the Batman Podcast Network at BatPod Network. For Jett and everyone at Batman on Film, I'm announcer Rachel. Thanks for listening to the authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film.